Hi, everybody. I'm definitely digging London. I'm really happy that I could come out for this, and Power to Pixel is putting on such a great show so far. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about brands and partnerships. I think it's kind of, I've spent some time talking at different talks like these, and I've seen a lot of interesting thought, but I'm surprised that I haven't seen more filmmakers kind of thinking about ways to use brands to help fund their films and to help with distribution, and not just your conventional brands, but also partnerships. It's something that I've done with my films. And just to give you a quick little backstory on me, about 5.5 years ago, I was working in a cubicle office life environment, just kind of sort of bored with life, work, and that's how I decided to get into filmmaking. I'd known that I'd always wanted to do something on my own, but my buddy and I quit our jobs and just went out and decided to make a film. We made a story about kind of our own journey and some of the journeys of people that we met along the way. We crossed the country on a Segway, which is one of those self-balancing scooters. We crossed the USA on one of those at a speed of 10 miles per hour and created our first film. And that's kind of the beginning of how I got into filmmaking. I've since made 2 films, and each of the films I've used brands in different ways to either be kind of integrated into the film or on the distribution side, like I said. So here's just an example of some of the different brands that I've worked with over the time. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a few of these and how I got into working with these to sort of give you an idea of my approach and something that I think everybody can be doing to make their films. And I think as we sit here and listen to each other and think about what's happening, I mean, we're all becoming our own micro distributors, and that's becoming a necessity to most of us here as filmmakers to kind of survive and go forward and grow and become something. And I think that we have to think about that from time to time. There's a few people that are lucky enough not to have to do that, but I believe that as a micro distributor and as somebody who believes in content and sees the way that content is kind of distributed out there, you must realize for sure that brands are behind everything. I mean, especially in the U.S., it's such a corporate system. So it's really important to kind of understand that and sort of work with them. They have the same interests as us. They want the eyeballs, and they want to be able to communicate messages out there. And there's ways to sync up with them through the experiences that we're creating. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about this particular company. Izzy is a sparkling beverage that's in the United States. I don't know if it's out over here yet, but this was kind of the first, what I think of as big sponsor that we got. This was during the production of 10 miles per hour. Before the film started, we went out and tried to get all these big companies to support it. We couldn't get any support. It was very difficult, just knocking on doors, not having any credentials or any experience. But as we started to do the film and produce this experience where we're traveling across the country on a Segway, we were getting all kinds of press and attention and started to sort of have a voice. And so it just so happened in the first 10 or 15 days of the trip, it took 100 days to shoot the film. We went to a Dean Kamen event, and he's the inventor of Segways, and ran into a guy that worked at Izzy. Basically, all it was a product deal. I mean, he gave us a bunch of free product, which we loaded up into a trailer, and we drank Izzy's on the rest of the way across the country. But little things like that were, at the time, very, very big for us. And as we've kind of gotten these smaller sponsorships in the initial stages of our career, they've started to grow over time and lead to some cool opportunities. Like I say here, eventually, a few years later, I'm making my second film, which is a documentary called 10 Yards about fantasy football. A huge obsession in the States, American football, that is. And I know you have the fantasy football, the real football here. But through this relationship that I had with Izzy, I'd sit down with this guy again and talk to him about what I was doing. He started to talk to me about some new companies or some big companies in Colorado, the area that I was living, and kind of gave me some insights as to some people that I might talk to look for some funding. And through them, we got a big sponsor for 10 Yards, the second film that I talked about, called Crocs, which are those big old funky-looking plastic shoes that you may or not have seen much of over here, but they're this huge fad in the States, and now they've kind of been struggling quite a bit. But they had tons and tons of money, and so they decided to sink some money into a film because it just so happened they were releasing a line of shoes that were licensed for the National Football League, which ties into this idea of the film we were doing about fantasy football. My second brand that I just want to talk a little bit about is Quiznos. It's like Subway if you're not familiar with this particular brand. There's about 5,000 locations around the world. And this was another instance where I started lightly with these guys and just put together like a co-promotional deal. So basically they were going to use their 3 million member database to help bring recognition and exposure to our film. And it turns out they wanted to work with 10 Yards. I was actually, at the time I went in to pitch them, I was pitching my third film, which I'll talk about in a little bit. It's called Ride the Divide, and it's a mountain bike race, a 2,700-mile mountain bike race in the United States. And so I was talking to them about that idea, but they got interested in 10 Yards, and it was about the time that we started to distribute 10 Yards. And so we found a nice way to like do a co-promotion where we were promoting them on our website and in some various locations on our DVD, and they got excited, but it didn't equate to too much cash for us. It helped some of the sales of the movie, but it wasn't like a cash deal. But nonetheless, it was pretty cool. But as I've worked with them and worked with other brands, I've started to realize that they're more and more interested in finding ways to create stories and finding ways to tap in their audiences through different types of experiences. And so it started now to lead to all kinds of commercial work. So with that, I want to take a second here to show, if I can, a nice cash, hold on, kind of a nice cash paying opportunity that I've had. I think this is the screen. Let's see if it plays. Hold on. This is a project that I did for trying to get it to show here on the screen, and I don't think it's showing. All of us are used to these Macs back at home. So
maybe if you take PowerPoint down.
Yeah, it could be. It's just not showing up right now. Should I?
I've never seen this before.
Okay. Well, I'm going to carry on for the moment here and talk a little bit more about the next sort of partner. Now, besides brands, I also look to different types of organizations within the film industry. I kind of watch what's going on and who's getting into the game and who has money at the time or trying to make a name for themselves in different ways. And I actually have hooked up with YouTube in different ways. It's a different type of partnership, and I'll talk a little bit about what I've done with them in a second after we watch what I did here for Quiznos.
Turn out living on my own, and I always found it hard trying to counteract the voices on the phone. Come your time. I never could have known how things would turn out living on my own, and I always found it hard trying to counteract the voices on the phone.
So you can see there that I think more and more brands are going to be looking for ways to maximize exposure and find ways to create stories in their own way. We did a whole bunch of videos for them on a 2-week trip that we took that were kind of similar to this and kind of web-based videos, and it was to encourage a contest that they were doing, a video contest that they were setting up. But I think that as we move on in time with content, we're going to see brands come into storytelling, underwrite a lot of content, and do a lot with us as filmmakers like that in shorter formats and longer too, I believe. So I will go back to, what's that? From beginning? Okay. From current slide? Okay, so let's go move on now to the YouTube story here now. So with YouTube, basically, they have a partnership program for certain content producers out there, and we basically got excited about the possibility of showing our entire movie on YouTube. And so we started figuring out who to talk to at YouTube and had some conversations. And this was back a couple years ago after we had done a conventional release. What I found is you have to constantly find ways to keep your film being talked about, as you're out there. I think it's the job of what a normal distributor should be doing for a film, and finding different ways to launch the film, relaunch the film, and keep creating stories about it. So we hooked up with YouTube and decided to release our entire film on YouTube, and this was before any other feature-length documentary had done it. Four-Eyed Monsters had released their film as a feature narrative right before us, and as part of this deal, we set up another partnership with a company named Our Stage and encouraged people on YouTube that were watching our movie to subscribe to Our Stage's database, and that would earn us $1. So we were making money in multiple ways. We were getting a little share of the advertising revenue through YouTube, and also making money through this arrangement we had with Our Stage. And it actually proved to be one of the best things I've ever done and decisions I ever made. And part of that's probably because I was early on in that, one of the first people. But I do think it's been very valuable to have the online platform out there showing off my film. I've been experimenting with it and actually doing it recently with my second film, 10 Yards, after a conventional release with it as well. And both times, I mean, we've received hundreds of thousands of viewers, all kinds of comments, bump orders on our conventional distribution deals, like significant bump orders from Netflix, which is really, really helpful to us, as filmmakers to kind of have that boost of energy out there. And the cool thing about it is it's online, so it spreads in ways that you'd never expect, and you get contacted by different people, and it creates opportunities, and it gives you sort of fuel that you need to go sell your next sponsorships or things like that. Everything sort of works together if you kind of are constantly thinking about how you can be bigger than just having your one-off film. If you want to see YouTube, I'm not going to try to go get out there now because this pixel stuff just sometimes tricks me up a little bit, I don't want to mess it up again, but you can go to youtube.com/10 miles per hour, 10 mph, if you want to see what we've done with our content on YouTube. And it's again, something I think that's pretty exciting. And keep in mind that if you can build relationships with big channels like YouTube down the road as things evolve and change in this world that we're playing in, I mean, that's as valuable as anything. Smartwool, real quick, I'm going to try to hurry through this. It's essentially, they came on with 10 miles per hour, gave us a bunch of product. Great little company in Colorado. They're growing. They've got socks and this wool that's awesome. With Ride the Divide, my third film, they've come on as the biggest cash contributing sponsor. And my sponsorship deals now that I'm doing are in the tens of thousands of dollars for a film to get involved up front, and then they're going to receive a lot of attention when it comes time to distribution. And then in the end, I also do work with the distribution side to raise more money from other sponsors that want to be aligned with some of our media partners. So moving on, I just want to go through, how much time? Okay, I've got 5 minutes. I'll go through this pretty quick. Just some quick tips to what I do when I'm thinking about getting partners and brands to help support my content. I think obviously about building a partnership. I think that's first and foremost. I mean, again, like I said, all these companies are looking to do the same thing we are. They want to grow. They want to affect certain messages out there. So don't work with companies you don't like, obviously. Find companies you like the idea of your film and want to speak to the same type of person. Find your person, Google around, talk to people, get in there, figure out who the right people to talk to, definitely in the marketing realm and PR realm typically. Once you find that person, find a way to meet them. As you know, probably as producers, you've got to spend a lot of time, talking to people face to face, like at these events and things like that. Do that too with the brands and other partnerships. Then you want to look at, think about distribution. I think it's very important. Product placement is nice. It doesn't work for everything, obviously. And so really think about the distribution side. I think you can impress upon a brand much more opportunity if you talk about the potential for your film, especially if you're using all these innovative ways right now to distribute it. Make the pitch quick. Follow up, and follow up. Just keep following up, but don't be too much of a bug. You can go away eventually. And then think about online video. It's here, and it's going to be way more here soon, so I'd think a lot about that. Convergence of brands and films. Everything's coming together. It's this big melting pot, and we're all a part of it. It's pretty exciting. I think that the same topics that we're talking about are the same things that marketing professionals all over the world and agencies everywhere are looking at very closely, and they're trying to figure out how are we going to get attention of the consumers, and those consumers are hopefully going to be watching all of our stuff. So think about ways to play in that world, and I'm going to go through these really fast because I've got 2 minutes or something like that. So just an example of what some brands are already doing. Honda's got this Power of Dreams thing. Burger King did this documentary about the burger, which is pretty sick. In a bad way, I think. Just some examples. It's full screen video on your computers. Pretty interesting stuff. There's a lot of sites like VBS.TV that are doing serialized stuff. Pretty cool. Babblegum's another example of that. Sobe, you're using social media and all of this content, everything, and trying to bring in these worlds and create them online. We're going totally into this niche marketing world, and so we have to think about our films and where they're going to fit in that niche, in those niches. Helly Hansen's done a lot, and they've done that with Matchstick Productions. They're outdoor extreme skiing type stuff, but they've gotten a lot of content from Matchstick Productions, and they're putting it directly into their navigational systems on their site. I Am Specialized has their own little boom, you click it, and this is Specialized Bikes. You've got a little, content viewing area where you can watch all kinds of different content that's categorized by the different type of biking that you're into. Real Rock film tour. There's a lot of tours around outdoor brand stuff that's going on where people are using brands and integrating brands to help promote what they're doing, making quite a bit of money by booking theaters on one-night events and going all around the U.S. and the world. And then there's a shot of Matchstick Productions too, their website. Also, take a look at Red Bull. They just launched this about 3 weeks ago. It's all content. You look at it. It's video right here. These are quick hits. Most of those are, videos, maybe a few photos and things like that. But brands are definitely thinking about content being the centerpiece of how they create their experience and their feeling. Look at this site. You can see that you've got a brand channel that's on. This is a snowboardmag.com type site, but they're thinking about channels and brands. And I think as we kind of evolve, unfortunately, we're going to have sort of a brand channel that comes out. And finally, I'd love if I have some time to show you Ride the Divide. A really quick clip of this. This is my latest film that I just finished. It's not out yet, but I'm doing a lot of talks now because of all the relationships that I have with brands and partnerships and things like that. I'm doing a lot of interesting talks with distributors and bigger brands on how we can kind of come together, get a big enough deal that pays me back for the cost of the film and my fellow producer on this, and then go forward and still keep a bunch of rights for ourselves. So hopefully we can continue to find ways to get that out there. So if I can figure out this little system, I'll show you a quick little bit of that. And there are already brands that are tied to this, like I said before, and I think there'll probably be more later. Looks like we might not be able to watch it. Oh, there we go. No, that's the wrong one. Well, I'll open it up to questions, and while I have, if there's no questions, we're going to move on to the next thing. So, okay, yeah. If we could get a couple questions, then we'll finish this up.
My question is, did you come up with an initial idea that you then went to the brands with, and then they kind of remodeled it? how much do the brands have an influence on what it is you're making? Or does your film just kind of take second place to?
With the films and the feature stuff, they don't have influence on what I want to do. Other than I might, take some free products, and if it's something that, works naturally inside of one of my documentaries, some free products might appear according to my choice and what I want with that. So, but typically, I don't want them to encourage the final piece, and that's something that I kind of lay down when I go in there. However, I'm always open to talking to them about stuff they're interested in producing, and aiding in that, because I think most independent filmmakers have to find other outlets for making income to support themselves, and so sometimes that might turn into something cool like that Quiznos thing. But it's definitely up to you to maintain that line and not let them influence you. Is there anybody else?
Hello. I enjoyed your presentation. Are YouTube now open for filmmakers to approach them with this idea to be kind of sponsored through kind of screening on YouTube? Have other films after yours done it?
Yeah, they're actually, YouTube.com/movies. They've really been encouraging finding, I think, filmmakers and content producers to come on board. And there's a process I think you have to go through to become a partner. But I've read recently that they're looking for more and more of those because it's a program that's worked for them. I think that if you kind of stay in tune with this whole thing, Sarah Pollack is here from YouTube. She might be able to speak to you about that at some point. So I think that probably is it for now. So thanks a lot. Sorry you can't see you Ride the Divide, but be there soon.